Hello, hello, hello. This is the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Joe Frick. With me, as always, the wonderful, the delightful, the well-dressed Drew Hannis. Drew, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, brother. There's so much to talk about this week. It's crazy. We don't even have enough time to go through everything. I hope the comments are popping. And I was just like taking a snap video of the intro because that song still like fires me up when you load it up each time.
I pay good money to use that song. We gotta make it happen. So yeah, the streets are saying that we're back up, just like most of the teams in this league's quarterback situation. So let's just dive right into it, Drew. Let's get into our injury update. So put on the lab coat and let the people know what's happening from an injury perspective.
There's honestly so many. It's crazy. So we kind of have a little bit of plan here. I'm gonna start with Jaden Reed. Broken collarbone, 6 to 8 week injury is what they're reporting. I kind of went through some of the data. I think that majority of the players that have missed, especially receivers, have usually missed around 7 weeks. I'm targeting a November 2nd return for him against the Panthers. I am not ruling out him returning against the Steelers for that Sunday night game, but I kind of ruled him out for our show just because I don't want to tell people to like get to that week and have to make a decision about whether you're not going to play Jaden Reed for a Sunday night football game. So like in my head, I would just rule him out as a fantasy owner for that week as well.
Yeah.
Moving on to Aaron Jones. I actually want to pair him and JJ McCarthy in the same breath here. So Aaron Jones suffered a hamstring injury. He's already been placed on IR. JJ McCarthy with the high ankle sprain. He's been projected for 2 to 4 weeks. Something that I don't think people are really discussing with these two players. I prepared to talk about it for Aaron Jones, but because he's placed on IR, it doesn't really matter for him at this point. But for JJ McCarthy, 2 to 4 weeks, they're calling it for. 2 out of their next 3 games are overseas. So they play the Steelers in Ireland in 2 weeks, and then they have to play at Tottenham Stadium the following week.
Right.
I feel like based on that schedule, you would rule him out for those next 2 to 3 weeks right then and there. Because if he doesn't travel with the team out to Ireland, I just don't see a world where they're going to fly him out by himself with like all the training staff already out in Europe. He's going to be staying home. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of weird. Like,
it's very weird, especially because at the end of that game, they looked fine. He looked like he was moving well. There's a lot of speculation that this is like a benching that they're disguising with an injury.
A soft bench, yeah.
I don't think that they would do that. They had a lot of runway with like Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins and all of these other folks. So I don't think that they would fake this injury to do that.
Right.
But you never know.
Yeah, I don't see them bringing him back in one of these European games. You know what I mean? I feel like he's going to be on the 4-week timeline just because it just doesn't really make sense with their schedule to do so. And that 4th week after, they actually have a bye. So he would get that extra week off after that bye week. So I feel like it just kind of makes more sense to just roll him out at that point. And honestly, from a fantasy football perspective, it might be better for the people that we care about in terms of this game, like Justin Jefferson. TJ Hawkinson's kind of been a shell of himself over the past 2 weeks. We were talking pre-show. Maybe he's still dealing with that injury because he had that major knee injury, but that was in December 2023. You kind of expected he'd be okay at this point, but he doesn't look like the same player he was pre-injury. So who knows? Maybe Carson Wentz will wake up Justin Jefferson over the next couple weeks. But yeah, we'll see. I personally think that he'll probably be held out past the bye. And unless Wentz looks absolutely terrible and they're just like, we can't do this crap anymore and bring him back over. But like, I just don't think he's going to play in either of those games in Ireland and the UK. And then Justin Fields suffered a concussion. I was kind of surprised that they ruled him out so early. I guess Aaron Glenn was discussing the fact that if he's not practicing, we're not going to want to, put him out on the field on Sunday. But like, concussions are linear injuries, and we see plenty of times where a guy like clears the protocol on Saturday and then still comes out and play. But like, they were just like, no, we're not doing that this week. So we're going to get tired.
Well, especially after the way that he played last week. Is there a point in rushing it?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that, the Bills are really good. I keep going back and forth. I feel like this if the Bills are actually a good defense and a good team, or if Josh Allen's just like a superhero. But like, they're much better than the Jets. So like, they just got the shit.
Right. And it's a division game, so I mean they kind of know what the Jets are looking to do, which is always surprising, especially when it's a new coach, new quarterback, new scheme, all this stuff. But the Jets offense took a huge step backwards after what they did to Pittsburgh week 1. So I don't know if that's a reflection of Pittsburgh or a reflection of the Jets, probably somewhere a little bit in the middle. But yeah, Ed Oliver and company really held it down before he went out. He's gonna be out for multiple weeks, so we'll see what shakes. But yeah, Buffalo looking like the contender that they've been for the last few years.
Right. And then Jaden Daniels actually, he suffered a knee injury. There hasn't been a lot of reporting about what it is. It kind of looked like a PCL sprain to me, the way he like banged his knee onto the ground. We've seen that over the past couple of years with Puka, CMC at the end of last year. Someone last week, Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, another guy I'm thinking has a PCL sprain. I feel like Jaden Daniels is going to play. He's a really tough dude. Like, he had that significant rib injury last year that he played through. But I don't know. I think that he's going to play. But there's a significant risk here that if he does play on this injury, that like it becomes something worse. So I feel like hopefully they make the right decision based on what medicals look like at that point. But I think he's going to play because of like who he is and what he's shown us so far. But we'll see. He's obviously a day-to-day thing. Monitor that. I would definitely have a backup option for him just in case he doesn't play. Honestly, I'll go into it more later because there's a discussion point with the Commanders. But I'm not really too worried about those pass catchers in that team if he doesn't.
Yeah. The good news is that at least he's in the early window. So when you do find that information out outside of the Thursday night game, you have the full slate to make your decision.
Right. And then, the last one is basically our transition to headlines, but that's Joe Burrow. So if you want to, we can kind of slow up here. He suffered the turf toe injury with the torn ligaments. I don't think he's going to play again this year. I mean, I was breaking down their schedule just to like on the off chance that they actually win a few games and stay in the hunt by the time he would be able to come back. I just don't think it's going to happen. Their schedule is pretty brutal, honestly. Like the next 4 games, they have the Vikings. I mean, it's without JJ McCarthy, but I think the Vikings are a better team. They got the Broncos, they got the Lions, they got the Packers. In November, they have the Ravens, Bills, and Ravens in a 3-week stretch. Like I just don't see them winning any of those games. And you're already looking at 7 losses there. Yeah, 7 losses, and they're gonna lose some games in the middle with Browning. I mean, the dude threw 3 picks to the Jags over the weekend.
Yeah.
They should have lost that game. Like they're not going to hang around to the point where I think that Burrow's going to have any point, in playing the rest of the season.
I do think, though, to your point, he threw the 3 interceptions. He almost put up 250 yards in that limited action. So I know there's some people that are concerned about Jamar Chase. What does that mean for him? Browning's going to chuck it. He's going to go for it. He's not this timid guy who doesn't really do a whole lot. In the 9 games that he played his rookie year, 1,900 yards, put up 241 last week. So he's willing to kind of air it out. They're going to get it. I think the person that's impacted the most is going to be T. Higgins. I think second most is going to be Chase Brown, just because they're going to be able to stack the box a little bit more. But ultimately, I think that Jamar Chase is more or less going to be fine. But to your point, from the perspective of the Bengals overall, I mean, this is just another what feels like wasted year for them, and they haven't been able to figure out this offensive line for Burrow. Now, I will say that even on the play that he got hurt, he does tend to play hero ball a bit. It was supposed to be a quick play. He didn't get it out quick. They haven't done a good job of protecting him. It reminds me a lot of how the Steelers were before Todd Haley, right? Where Ben would do all these amazing things. He'd make these crazy throws, extend plays in ways that you couldn't fathom. But then he was always banged up because he was holding the ball for so long they couldn't get it out. So then Haley comes in, really extended his career. I think the Bengals need somebody like that. And I don't think that Zach Taylor has done a good job for that.
they haven't done a good job of supporting Burrow outside of the two receivers. It's just
but
this
they've tried. It just hasn't worked. They put it. They spent the money to put it in the pick.
Should I drop that stat you don't like about Jamar Chase?
You can.
So I went into the season worried about Chase only because over the past 5 or 6 seasons, no unanimous 1-1 pick has finished in the top 20 at their position. CMC last year, Saquon, Jefferson over the past 3 years, to name a few. None of those players finished inside the top 20 at their position, all due to injury concerns. All of them were injury concerns. I mean, obviously this isn't Chase's injury, but I don't know. The vibes are just going to be bad around this team.
I think he bucks that trend still. I'm not worried about it. But let's jump into the chat a little bit before we keep rolling. So Chad is here upset because he started Josh Allen this week, and apparently that's the reason why he lost. I don't know if I would necessarily buy into that narrative, but
I have several Josh Allen teams that won this week, just for the record. Of course, I had Malik Neighbors and Amon St. Brown and guys like that, but
yeah, that is a take. And then transitioning into that, while I look up kind of the stats from last week. So he wants to know, is Kenny Pickett worth a stash in Dynasty if Geno does another week of Bryce Young impressions?
It takes an injury. Like they just paid him more money, right? Like they're not going to bench Geno.
No, they're not.
The main concern in that locker room is the Ashton Genty issues.
You know, it's been really interesting. People were so bricked up all off season about this rookie class. And who leads the rookie class in yards right now? Dylan Sampson, 4th round pick, Cleveland Browns. And he's already been overtaken by your boy, Judkins, pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
But none of those guys have really dominated the way that people were thought. Lamar Hampton's kind of been a bit of a disappointment. He's been getting the volume, but he hasn't been doing anything with it.
He's getting the 50-50 split, which is what we expected. We just kind of hoped in the preseason with Najee out that he would show enough that they wouldn't want to do that. But they both got 8 carries last week. Like it's going to be a 50-50.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it, but it's definitely weird. Yeah, but Josh Allen QB 25, so definitely a tough look. They just didn't need it. It was
James Cook had a long touchdown, and then they were on short field and they ran the ball into the end zone. It was just one of those games where he didn't need to do it. That's all. They blew him out.
I mean, we all can't be Jared Goff throwing up 5 TDs at home.
I faced him, Neighbors, and Kraft and Fishbowl and got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, I'm sure that you did. Russ Wilson sticking it to everybody, leading the league in passing right now, 450-yard game last week. Didn't see that one coming. So, yeah, I don't see the Kenny Pickett stash. I mean, it's always a good idea to have some backups, but I think they're going to roll with Geno for a while.
And you wouldn't want to start Kenny anyways. So what's the point of taking up the roster space?
But, yeah, so Vikings lost their center. Bad Bengals D could capitalize. I could see it. The Bengals defense has been better this season, but not really going to do anything with it. Tyler Weeks, living legend in the chat, he said the Bengals chose getting their receiver over protecting their quarterback, taking Chase over Penny Sewell. Most QB hits per game played since 2021.
I don't really hate the Chase over Sewell thing because, like, their relationship and their what they're doing together is great, but they still had 4 other years to get offensive linemen, and they didn't do anything.
No, for sure. I don't know. I don't hate it either. Chase is obviously paid off. Sewell's obviously great. It'd be interesting to see what that team would look like with him, just because T. Higgins, in my opinion, is a wide receiver 1. He can't stay healthy, but when he's on the field, he's more than capable. He was basically the back end of the first round pick. He was like a first 5 picks in the second kind of guy. So, it's an interesting what if to see what would have happened. I hate to admit the Chad on this one. So he said Scatterbo just took over the Giants' backfield, so he might be on the rise. I agree. I do not like Cam Scatterbo. I think he's a big scam. I think he's too slow. I don't see it. Dude plays hard. He blocks well, which is something that can't be said for a lot of these rookie running backs. But we'll see. But yeah, they've already hit Tracy with an injury designation for the week. Scatabo had more carries in the first half last week. So I do think that there's some legs there. I actually picked him up before waivers last week. So it's an interesting situation to monitor, especially if the Giants are able to put up 30 plus points a game. He has some pass catching prowess, could work out well. Steelers question: does Caleb Johnson get over or under 20 touches rest of season after the play to date and the touchdown incident on the kickoff last week? I will take the over. He's not going to be in the doghouse forever. I do think, though, I don't know if he gets a hat this week, because if he's not returning kicks, what's the point? So it'd be interesting if he even dresses this week.
I think he'll get a hat, but it would take an injury for him to get in.
Yeah, I don't know. But if he's not going to play and you're not going to play him, what's the point? Is it just because of the injury and you don't want to run solely?
It's just security, right? They'll just flip Gainwell. Yeah, you'll just flip Gainwell into the role when he was already dressed anyway, so it's not like you're losing a hat. But
yeah,
they should let Jabril kicks. Honestly,
could be fun. Honestly. All right, so Drew, let's jump into Fantasy Football Tinder. Before we do, Tyler said he doesn't hate the Chase pick there, but it's crazy how they just don't give a darn about protecting their QB, which, yeah, very true.
That's not what he said. He said give a Joe Frick.
Yeah.
Give a Joe Frick.
Give a frick about it, So let's jump into Fantasy Football Tinder. For those of you who may be watching the show for the first time, the way that this works is as follows. The best way to learn is with an example. So here is our buddy Zach. Question of the day for everybody. People want to know, will Zach be signed at nose tackle for the Steelers given their problems stopping the run? So people that are kind of frustrated in Pittsburgh right now, they're going to be swiping right saying, hey, big body's been hitting the gym. He's been doing his thing. Immediate swipe right. You'll see that on the screen with the green hearts. The haters out there saying the knees are shot. He's washed. He don't really got it. He's more of a friend of the offense, not the defense. They're going to swipe left. We're going to see that with the red X's on the screen. So, Drew, some interesting times in the NFL. We talked about Russ leading the league in passing yards. Number 2, Vanilla Vic. Can Indiana Jones save your fantasy season? He's currently quarterback 2.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I didn't see this coming. I am pissed at myself for not starting him in Fishbowl the last 2 weeks. The opportunity was there. He could have saved me in Fishbowl the last 2 weeks. I'm going to swipe right, honestly. The dude's 7th in the NFL in carries among QBs, and he's not even producing as a runner because he's 19th in yards, and I think that that's going to get better. He does lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns among QBs. But he's second in the NFL in passing yards, like you said. His schedule's favorable the rest of the way, too. They have the Texans at home in Week 18, so that's their worst matchup, and they don't even have to. You don't have to worry about that because your season should be over by then. They do have the Broncos at some point, but he just diced them up. So even with the tough matchup, he kind of looks matchup proof. I think that he's going to be good rest away. I'm looking at their schedule too. I mean, they have the Titans. They got the Rams, which is a tougher matchup, but then they got the Raiders, who've given up the seventh most yards to receivers over the past 2 weeks. Cardinals are an up-and-coming defense. Chargers, I think they're going to be in a shootout with. The Titans, again, another good matchup. The Steelers obviously haven't been able to stop anybody the last 2 weeks. I just think that they're in a good position here where he has some good matchups. He's running the ball effectively. He has all those weapons. Pittman looks good. Tyler Warren looks good, which I think he just popped up on the injury report today. I got that notification. I forgot to check in on what was going on there. And Downs has been banged up. I think that he'll get healthy. I just think that he's set up in a position here where he's just being overlooked. He's kind of having like a Ryan Tannehill type of resurgence here. And as long as he keeps running, and I think he'll get more effective in the run game, I think he's going to produce even more for us. It's just a matter of, if they keep scoring touchdowns, because they're scoring touchdowns at a higher rate than I expected as well. But I do see him paying off as a top 10 quarterback rest away.
Yeah. And so the streets were pretty torn. 50% said yes, 50% said no. For me, I started him week 1 in Fishbowl because of the matchup that he had. I benched him last week against Denver. I was like, I don't know, but still produced. Shane Steichen, maybe coach of the year with what he's doing here. So I'm going to swipe right with you, Drew. So you hit some of the stats that I was going to mention. Some things that are interesting to me: career high completion percentage at 71.4%. However, his completion percentage over expectation 0.7%. So they are putting him in positions to be successful. And to me, it's very interesting to think about, hey, like what would have this offense looked like with Anthony Richardson at the helm? Because pretty much all they're saying to do is find your first read, which he's thrown to his first read 84% of the time, second to only Matthew Stafford. And on top of that, he has had 50%, actually more than 50% of Indiana's carries inside the 5-yard line at the goal line. So they've pretty much been, when they get close, their QB sneaking with them. Like you said, it kind of alludes to the 17th in yards, but third in attempts. So they're using him in creative ways. They're getting him for first downs. They're getting him the ball inside the 5. And he hasn't been credited with any sacks. So that was a big knock on him in the Giants' house. They were saying, hey, like, you know, like he's taking these sacks, he's doing these things, he holds on to the ball too long. This is really boding well for him. I love the weapons that they have. Jonathan Taylor's leading the league in rushing. They have a good wide receiver room, the strong O-line. Warren's looked lights out. And his expected fantasy points per game is only 2 points off of what he's actually produced. So it's not like he's doing or these crazy things or getting super lucky. So if they can continue to keep this momentum, I'm going to keep putting him in my lineups. And he's very much climbing up my board as far as kind of like rankings on a weekly basis. All right, so before we jump into Tinder 2, we got some questions in the chat that we want to make sure we address. So jumping back to the Vikings conversation from a little bit earlier, Drew, who do you think is the handcuff to Jordan Mason with Aaron Jones kind of having that injured reserve time? Popular add-on sleeper today has been Xavier Scott. Do you think Cam Akers gets immediately elevated? Do you think anyone is really worth a knock out of that group?
Yeah, I know people are really excited about Jordan Mason, but I still don't think that he's going to offer anything in the passing game. I think that they're going to elevate Cam Akers. I think that that's a no-brainer considering they elevated him several times last year and they know what he could do as a pass catcher out of the backfield. I mean, that just makes the most sense to me. I don't think Jordan Mason changes too much, in my opinion. Maybe a couple extra carries, but he's still a touchdown-dependent running back because I still don't think he's going to offer anything out of the backfield personally, especially if they bring Akers up.
And what's interesting, too, I think you had mentioned it last week, he was running as if he was more the lead back just as far as touches, but then Aaron Jones kind of had the long touchdown week 1. He was getting more of the pass work, so it will be interesting to see. I don't know much about Xavier Scott. I agree with you. I think that Cam Akers does get elevated and has more of that role just because he has that familiarity with the system. So that would be my expectation. So I know you already took the lab coat off, Drew, but do you know or have you heard anything about this mysterious bicep injury for Lad McConkey that popped up?
Yeah, I didn't even know about it. When I saw the comment pop up, I was researching it. All that's out there is that he didn't really practice today because of a bicep injury. I mean, I'm not overly concerned about it, honestly. I mean, it's Wednesday. If it comes to Saturday or Friday and Saturday, he's not practicing, that's a different story. But I'm not really too familiar with what's going on there. They didn't report anything that happened in game either.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't heard anything much about it either, but it would be interesting. However, that passing attack is humming. We talked about Justin Herbert last week, and they are moving all 3 of those receivers. I think that they kind of eat into the potential of wide receiver 1, but if Quentin Johnson is going to get broken free open for a long touchdown every week, like how do you not put him in your lineup?
Yeah, he should be.
I never thought in a million years that I would say this about Quentin Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly like
I'm happy with the dude.
It's honestly like Daniel Jones and Quentin Johnson, like guys that you didn't believe in, but like they're hot right now. So you start them until they stop.
Yeah, you got to. Okay, so we got Boston in the chat. Our boy, the Utah Goose himself. Dak, Caleb Williams this week. Who are you liking? And tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the matchup, they're playing each other. They're both terrible defenses. They both have done terribly. I mean, we saw what Russ just did to them. JJ McCarthy diced him up in the fourth quarter, week 1, and then Jared Goff just absolutely loaded on the Bears last week. Honestly, you could go coin flip. I'd start either of them. They're both top 10 plays for me. I think I would just lean. Honestly, like, it's weird, but like, I don't like stacking players. Like, it's funny that he mentioned that he likes to stack. Because, like, if something happens to Dak, it could, destroy both of them. I've never been like that type of risk taker where if something, like, if the Cowboys have an off game entirely, you're losing out on 2 players in your lineup. I've never been like that big of a stacker, but I think that Dak is the safer play of the 2, so I would probably still lean Dak.
Yeah, I think that Dak has the higher floor. The wild card with Williams is the rushing upside that he has. Dak doesn't necessarily have as much of that, but with the injury to Jalen Jones, I feel like the Bears defense has already been leaky. I don't think that there's any potential there. So shootout feeling and coming, I probably lean Dak just because I have more faith in that offense than I do with the Bears. The Bears just seem a bit fluky.
Besides Rome Odunze.
Yeah, Rome's been nasty.
So
I'm very happy that I have him on quite a few teams. Don't like it for my call thinking that DJ Moore was going to be more involved because they're, as much as they are manufacturing like easy stuff for DJ Moore, like the money plays have all been Rome.
Rome is in the sun god role.
Yeah,
for Ben Johnson. It's awesome.
Yeah. So we got my boy Steve Molina in the chat, Dallas legend. He said, if you guys got time, got sent an offer last night. My JCM for London PPR. Now
is
my
that
wide receiver. Yeah.
I want to make sure that's not supposed to be JSN.
No, I'm pretty sure that's a Bill Merritt.
If you could get Drake London for Bill, even though Drake London's hurt, I don't know how you could say no to that. I don't know what Bill's going to look like.
That trade's been accepted. So he's saying that he has JSN, Tet, Egbuka, JMO, and London. So now he's looking at moving JMO because he's never going to see the field on that team. So yeah, CMC, Henry, Henderson, who would be a good trade target to pick up?
Austin Eckler towards Achilles, by the way, because somehow that missed the original.
That definitely happened. I do see the Cam Scatterbo potential. I think that you're tearing down quite a bit if that's the trade that you're making. And if I was going to tear down in that manner, the rookie that I would trade for in that tier would be Quinshon Judkins, just because I think he's a better talent. And even though the Browns offense isn't as good, I don't think that the Giants are much better. However, another guy that I think that you could take a look at, and they might go for it, Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. The Steelers have hyped him up all week. Aaron Rodgers absolutely loves the guy. He had that nasty pass play last week right before the interception. So I think Jaylen Warren probably a bit extreme. I don't think that somebody would take Warren for Williams, although they might go for it. And he confirmed, that it was Bill Merritt. So you go there. I'd be curious if the person that has Jordan Mason would flip him for Jameson Williams if you're looking for more of like a floor type of guy. So I would say Warren would be my number one. I'd probably go Quinshon second, Mason 3, and then after that, I think Cam Scatterbo would be fine. I also wonder if you could get someone like
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. That would also I would say Dobbins.
Yeah, I think I'd be looking. Yeah, I think Warren, Connor. If you could get Javonte, honestly, if someone doesn't think that that's going to last.
But the problem
I actually
is
do like
JMO hasn't had that game yet. That's like the JMO game to boost the value.
Last week he had, if they're a box score viewer though, he had a long touchdown.
True. So,
I don't know. I really like the construction of this team because I think that Henderson's going to really pop off in the second half. I wouldn't be shocked if he has his moment this week, just because looking at how the Steelers game went last week against the Seahawks, Charbonnet, the less explosive guy, really struggled against our defense. But when Kenneth Walker came in, who's like the speed explosion guy, like he played really well. I could see Ramondre having a bad game and then Henderson getting a few big runs. This could be the first game that puts him on the map. This team's really good.
Yeah, the other thing what would be interesting is it's like if there are tight ends, like could you tier up on a tight end? But yeah, I like that list that we got. So let's keep it moving. We got
real quick. He asked if Jaylen Warren is a hometown bias. I honestly think that Jaylen Warren might have top 10, 15 upside rest of the season. The way like the rest of the running back room looks, I think that the worry was that he was going to be overtaken, but like he's by far and away the best running back in our backfield. I think that if Kenneth Gainwell doesn't eat into him, I think that he's going to be surprising a lot of people in the season where he ends up at.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, would you trade Nico for T-Mac and Javonte Williams?
This is crazy, but I think I would.
I would too. I would easily take that trade.
I want nothing to do with the Texans offense, period.
That offense, we're talking about bad offensive lines earlier. That's a real bad offensive line, and they have no time for nothing. I mean, it took that amazing catch from Nico to get that touchdown last week.
He went from being like 2 for 20 because he had to have an insane catch. Like that team is a problem.
Yeah. I feel good about it, and I think Javonte can maintain that role. I think there was a lot of people that like, oh, like what's gonna happen with Miles Sanders, whatever. And then it was like, oh, Jadon Blue, I don't know if it's because he's in this like rookie running back class or whatever, but they're all just like he's not even seeing the field. There was these questions about like, oh, like he had these conditioning issues coming into camp. Like Javonte's going to continue to go. So I like this move.
Javonte hurt someone last week. We haven't seen Javonte be that athletic since pre-injury.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? I think the thing that had me fading Javonte going into the season is that typically in year 2 is when you see the kind of like the ACL recovery hit its peak. But there have been quite a few cases where it takes that third year for players to come back. So it's not like a extreme thing for it to happen. It's just everybody's bodies are a little bit different. And he seems a lot more like himself than he has in a really long time.
And he had like a major knee injury. It wasn't just like an ACL. Like he blew out a lot of ligaments. Like it was PCL and meniscus, and there was a lot going on in there. But I was fading him just because I thought that they were going to be way more pass heavy than they've been. But
yeah, I did too, and I didn't think that the offensive line was going to be good enough for him to do much. I do think that there's going to be some touchdown dependency for him to kind of peak, but I mean, who doesn't have that situation? So, all right, let's get into the real fun stuff, Drew. So we've got this plethora of backup quarterbacks playing this week. We got to start too. Browning, Mac Jones, Spencer Rattler. Who you got? Is there any of the three that you're excited about playing? I got one, and it's Mac Jones. Mac Jones?
I don't think any of them have good matchups, honestly. Like, I think that that's really the best you could do.
I mean, I don't feel great about it at all. If this is like a 2 QB situation, like maybe you're picking up one of them off of waivers or something like that. I think Browning for me, if it's 4-point touchdown, I'm concerned because he's not going to throw enough touchdowns to make up for the interceptions that he's inevitably going to throw. Right? 6-point, I feel a little bit better about it. He's a little bit more willing to run. Minnesota is going to throw the book at him to try to make him throw interceptions, and I think that he does it.
Well, you have to start.
If you're looking at Rattler, Seattle's defense has been much improved. I kind of discounted them. I didn't think they were going to be as good with Witherspoon out last week, but they look pretty good. Arizona, also a solid defense, but I have the most trust in San Francisco, putting them in successful situations. For Mac Jones looks solid, even despite all the kind of like the injuries that they have on the receiving core. So Mac Jones is my easy one. Out of the two, I'm probably going to play Spencer Rattler. He actually looked decent last week.
I feel like the Saints are like low key feisty, and they're at least playing really hard for Kellen Moore. So I think Rattler's in my lineup.
Let's say Jones, Rattler, then Browning is my third.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I go the same way because I just kind of feel like this Bengals Vikings game is just going to be ugly and just like crappy because it's Wentz versus Browning. Like it's going to be low scoring and just that's not what you want for fantasy football.
Would you play Wentz over any of those three?
I mean, I hate this so much, but Wentz might be one, honestly, because the Bengals defense is so bad.
He would be two for
does
me.
Have Justin Jefferson.
He would be two for me.
I feel like Wentz is smart enough to just throw it to Justin Jefferson 30 times. Like honestly, like
I think it's gonna be a Wentz legacy game. So give me Mac Jones 1. We've seen him already do it on this team. We go Wentz 2, Rattler 3, Browning 4.
God, I hate
and
this.
We'll run it back last week. We'll run it back next week because I want to have some accountability to this nonsense. Okay, so Chad has a dynasty question for us. He's really struggling to evaluate this trade for Romeo Doubs. It's feeling relevant again with readout, though it doesn't matter. You got Watson looming. So how do you feel about it?
I mean, I don't think Watts is going to contribute this year coming off the ACL.
My whole problem is that I don't think that Jordan Love can support a wide receiver 1 unless they have.
Tucker Kraft is the one you want out of that.
Right. So and the only way that Dobbs becomes fantasy relevant is through free agency. And then it's a wild card. Like people aren't going to give him $30 million a year. Like he's going to be at best a wide receiver 2. Like I think the best case for Dobbs would be like Darnell Mooney, where he left the Bears, he goes to the Falcons, becomes a number 2 option, pops off for a little bit, and then kind of becomes like this flex-ish at best play. So for me, you can hold. What are you realistically going to get from a trade out of him? Maybe a third.
Yeah,
third round picks aren't even real to me, so it's like I don't feel like it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that Romeo Doubs is ever going to be anything. Like he's never going to be that relevant. He's always been like a touchdown dependent wide receiver, and I hate guys that you have to bank on a touchdown. So I would trade him if you can get a decent pick. Maybe you can move him to like move up and around.
Not a bad idea. Or I think he is the kind of player that is kind of like a throw in of, oh, like, hey, like I want this player, I'm going to give you this, and then I'll also give you Dobbs.
Right.
So I don't see the point in holding him. I don't see the point of trading him. I don't even know if I would care to have him rostered personally. So I guess trade would be my choice.
Yeah, it just depends on what you can get.
Yeah. So we got Nino in the chat. Always good to see you, my friend. We're sending out AJ Brown offer to see if we can get a buy low. We got countered with this. What do we think about it? Anthony Richardson. This is Philly Mike always be in the chat lying. I know that that's fake just because I've seen him in 3 different shows that I've been on lying about stuff. So Philly Mike, this is why I hate Phillies. So screw you.
He's still going to get me to look, though.
I know. But you ain't get me this time. I'm familiar with your game. And your mom's a hoe. But Nino was saying AJ Brown offers see if he can get a buy low. He got countered with this. So he's sending away Travis Etienne, Kyron Williams, DJ Moore for Gibbs, AJ Brown. I mean, that feels like a yes to me.
I love Gibbs. I love Gibbs there. I'm not particularly high on AJ Brown, but I love Gibbs. So like I'd probably take it.
Yeah, if it was like Etienne and Moore for AJ Brown, I'd be kind of like, I don't know. Etienne seems like he's got that role taken care of. Kyron obviously has struggled so far this year. They gave the goal line carry to Blake Corum last week. DJ Moore, I still have faith in, but I think Rome has overtaken him a bit in that room. So, yeah, I like it. I think getting Gibbs is a clear best player out of everyone in this. Detroit's going to continue to find him the ball. It's going to be awesome. AJ Brown, like I don't think it's sustainable for Philly to throw for 100 yards every week. Like they just can't keep doing it. So we'll see what happens. But all right, Drew, let's transition into Tinder number 2. So let's talk about this guy right here, Brian Thomas Jr. Struggling a little bit so far this season. Some people are a little bit worried about early season Brian rot. No, that is not a typo, but we talked to the streets. The streets, 82.6% are swiping right. They still believe in the first rounder. Drew, how are you feeling about Brian Thomas Jr.?
Personally, I'm feeling like I'm going to get flamed for what everything I'm about to say. But I'm swiping left on Brian Thomas Jr.
Boo, tomato, tomato, tomato.
Yeah. So just bear with me here because there's a lot that's running through my head when I thought about this. First thing, I'm swiping left, but I still think that he's a buy low candidate because I think that a lot of people feel really shitty about him right now. And I think if you wait another week, it gets even worse because they have the Texans this week, and he's going to get shadowed, and he's not going to do well this week.
Stingley, they will shadow depending on situation. It's not like a guaranteed thing, but I think this is one of those weeks that they will.
Stingley's going to shadow. He shadowed the last 2 weeks. He shadowed Devontae Adams, and he shadowed Mike Evans. Total for the season, he's given up 17 fantasy points to both of those players combined. Brian Thomas is, unless he gets a long touchdown, if he gets one big play, it's going to be another rough week. His schedule is rough, too. It's not just this week. They got the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Rams, all of those games. Then they come back around, they find out the Raiders. Okay, he might have a good game then. Then he comes back and gets Derek Stingley again. He's going to have the Chargers. Will Johnson's been very good for the Cardinals. That's why I'm low-key worried about that question about those 3 quarterbacks. I don't want anything against the Cardinals defense right now because they've looked much better. I think they're defense 2 in fantasy. And I think the reason why they're not 1 is because the Falcons had a massive game with a score in week 2. They're definitely a top 3 defense right now. Will Johnson's been shutting down opposing wide receivers. And then they'll have the Titans and Colts. Those will be easy matchups. But then he's going to get the shadow coverage from Sauce Gardner. He's going to get the shadow coverage from Pat Surtain. And then we're back to Colts and Titans. And the Titans game is going to be a week 18 when it doesn't even matter. So, he only has 4 matchups I like. And outside of he's 9th in the NFL in targets. All right. That's the one good thing that we can really say right now. But Trevor Lawrence is only completing 55% of his passes, and passes targeted to Brian Thomas, he's at a 26% catch rate. It's not even just Trevor Lawrence. Brian Thomas just doesn't look like he's there. He took a hit from Juan Thornhill against the Steelers in the preseason, and the dude looks terrified to make contact with any defender right now. He's not playing like an alpha wide receiver. He comes across the middle and he's alligator arming everything. And all of that last year, there's a trend here. We're basing it off of one season where he blew up, but all of those games were with Mac Jones. This was a talking point going into the season, but now that we're 2 games in and likely 3, the sample size is getting larger of what he's doing with Trevor Lawrence. He's only at 3.8 receptions per game for 62 receiving yards. You're looking at 9 points without a touchdown. And he was drafted in the mid-second round. So I'm swiping left, not based on him entirely. I just don't think he's going to pay off his draft position. So it's hard
tough to do
that. About a guy. He's not going to pay off that draft position where you drafted him. But if you could get him buy low, I would absolutely do that. So don't take my swiping left as I'm completely out on him. I just don't think that you're going to get enough out of him for the premium that you paid for him. And just the schedule's brutal. I could just see it week to week. Unless he scores a touchdown, he's going to be in the 5 to 10 point range unless he breaks a long one. And that sucks. That's not even a flex play for me in PPR.
Yeah. I think the thing though, and I'm with the people, I'm gonna swipe right. He's currently 8th in the league in air yard share. So 45% of the Jaguars' air yards are going to Brian Thomas. That's up
What's
from
the number though? What's his air yards?
it was in the 200s. I don't have it pulled up right now, but it's up from 33% last year. And he's 15th in targets. So he's gotten 18 targets in 2 games. To your point, his catch rate's low 20%. Some of that's on him, some of that's on Trevor Lawrence. His catchable target rate this season, according to Fantasy Points data, 61.1%. That's down from 80% last year. T Law typically hovers between 73 and 78%. So he's going to get some better passes. Like, I don't think that it's going to be this bad forever. The Jaguars are also top 10 in passing attempts. So knowing that he's getting the air yards, he's getting the targets, the points are going to come. I think that he kind of returns as like a wide receiver 2. I know there was some folks who are like, oh, like he's going to be number 1 wide receiver. Some people were even taking him in the first round. I agree with you. I don't think that he necessarily lives up to that capital. I also agree with you that if you do want to buy low on him, I would also wait until after this Texans game, because then that's when people are going to be in full panic. If you had him and you drafted him early, it's probably likely that you're going to be 1-2, 0-3, and you're going to be able to get him for pennies on the dollar. But I do think that there is going to be some bounce back. I don't think if I have him in lineups right now, just until I can see the turnaround a little bit. But I think that he will be useful in fantasy at some point in the season.
So yeah, I think that it's hard to swipe left on him. And the reason why I don't feel great about it is because of the name recognition and what he did last year. But like, I'm worried. Like, I feel like the air yards thing could be a good thing and also a bad thing, because if he's getting more throws downfield that aren't high percentage throws on top of it with an inaccurate quarterback who hasn't been good, like you're kind of saying the same thing.
248 air yards. His A dot is 13.8.
So like there's like a point where it's like the A dot is too low, but then you get to a point where it's too high and you're in Marvin Harrison Jr. territory where he's not getting high percentage throws and he's not producing because of how difficult it is.
His A dot last year was 11.8.
I feel like that's like different. Yeah, I feel like the 11 to 12 is what we've always talked about being good, but 13 is not much higher. I really just don't think he's going to pay off. And if you could say that you don't feel comfortable starting him, that's a swipe left for me. And I
wouldn't start him this week only, but going forward, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Do you start him at the 49ers?
Yeah.
Chiefs?
Yeah.
Devin Witherspoon comes back, you start him against Seahawks?
They're not going to shadow him with Witherspoon. I'd start him.
I don't feel good about starting him at all until they play the Raiders. And I think that's my issue. But like the problem is that you have to. So like don't take what I'm saying in that way. Like you have to start a guy that you drafted that high. I just don't feel good about it. That's all.
Yeah, and people are saying, hey, like maybe the Mac Jones to BTJ thing has some legs. So we'll see. It's really not looking good for Trevor Lawrence. It's especially not looking good for Travis Hunter people. So we'll see what happens there. So before we get into our OnlyFantasy subscriptions for the week, we do have another question in the chat from the citizen. So he's traded Jefferson, Laporta, and Algier for, I'm assuming, Jamar Chase and Bowers. Then I traded Saquon and Golden for Puka and Bill. Cool.
I mean, guess. I feel like this is one of those things where you would be like, you just trade your rosters kind of thing because you trade such impact players. But like, I think I would rather. Yeah, right. I know. I'm just saying, like, you just had so much roster turnover. I think I do prefer the Chase and Bauer side. Even with Burrow out, Jefferson's QB play has been just as bad. And I think that Bauer's, like, he had a really tough game last week. He might have another tough game this week. But I think that in the next few weeks, he should come back to his old self. I really like the Saquon and Golden for Puka and Bill trade because I think that Bill's on the up and coming and Puka's amazing. Like there's a world where I would trade Saquon and Golden for Puka straight. So like I think that the moves are good.
I like it as well. I think that Laporta has a big game this week, assuming that he plays. Algier means nothing to me in this trade. He's like an elite handcuff. I know he got the touchdown last week, but you never know. Like, you can't throw him into the lineup with confidence. So he's going to be somebody that finishes high in points, but not really somebody that's usable, but elite handcuff nonetheless. I like Chase more than Jefferson, given the kind of the situations. Even still, I still like that better. And Bowers is still a step up from Laporta big time. So I think that difference between Bowers and Laporta is enough between the minimal difference between Chase and Jefferson. The Saquon trade, Golden's been a bit of a disappointment, but it could look a lot different here in the coming weeks. Like I've been saying, I don't think that Jordan Love is going to hyper target anyone ever, especially in the receiving room. So it's going to be hard. I think Golden is like a great best ball kind of player. Outside of Tucker Kraft, I don't have a lot of confidence in starting anyone in Green Bay on a given week, just because who knows how it's going to flow.
I have to start Tyler Algier in Fishbowl.
He'll get carries though. I mean, he's a high floor. You're just hoping for that tutty. All right, so we had another one, just a comment from a trade from last week. So sent Tyreek, ETN, got back Chase Brown, Jacoby Myers. Don't hate the trade. A little bit of a sting just because of the Joe Burrow injury. Be able to stack the box a little bit on Brown. Love Jacoby Myers. That's my boy right there. So I still like it. That Dolphins team is such a mess right now. It's only a matter of time before it all blows up. So I get wanting to get out of that time bomb. I'm surprised with just the comment of saying, hey, like I wanted to get rid of Tyreek because of having CMC. I'm surprised that you drafted him. But I think as far as return on value, I don't hate the trade at all.
Tyreek's going to be a Chief. It's only a matter of time. Let's be honest.
You don't think it goes to the Lurs?
No. He's going to
the
be
international house of old men that still want a ball.
It's just so obvious he's going to be a Chief.
Yeah. We'll see.
It just makes sense.
You think, speaking of Chiefs, you think Xavier Worthy plays this week? They said it's 50-50. I don't see how. Like, you can't play with one arm.
If he plays, he's not going to be effective. So, like, no one has to think about putting him in their lineup. He could just be a decoy running around, which could be a good decoy. He's not going to be able to lift his arm up over his head very well. So, like, it's going to have to hit him in the breadbasket.
Yeah, all right. Well, he has a good enough quarterback for that, so that'll be good. Unless it gets tipped at the line, then he can pout like Travis Kelce because it didn't hit him right exactly where he wanted it to.
People have to respect
so terribly hard. All right, so let's transition to our last segment of the day, our OnlyFantasy subscriptions for the week. So in this segment, we will be letting you know who we think is in for a big week. Before we can dive into the future, we must take a look and acknowledge our past and how notoriously bad I am at this game. So, Drew, let's take a look at our week 2 numbers. One catch, 6 yards on 4 targets, wide receiver 111. If I would have just picked Troy Franklin, I'd have been a hero.
Yeah,
and one for the people. But
you might be the only fantasy killer because I think you have 2 receptions on the year on like 10 targets.
It's not been good. Wide receiver in the hundreds. I feel good about the process though. Like it is what it is. You had DK Metcalf.
I mean, you hit the right receiving room, just the wrong guy.
Yeah, so we'll see. But we'll see how it rolls out. He was a very popular waiver ad this week. I like Franklin a lot. I'll have him starting in Fishbowl. See if he can keep up with it. But Cortland Sutton, slow start to the year. Speaking of slow starts, DK Metcalf did not have the revenge game of everyone's dreams. 3 receptions, 20 yards, touchdown on the kind of like the moss in the corner of the end zone there. 6 targets, wide receiver 40, which is still almost 70 spots better than my wide receiver. So proud of you. All right, Drew. So
he was consensus 11, so I'm not really impressed. Honestly.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Give us your guy. Who are you liking for week 3?
Yeah, so for week 3, I went spooky season, scary Terry McLaurin.
Is that it? That's the whole vibe?
No. So I talked about it going into week 1 that I thought that he would have a slow start. Zach flamed me for it, said who are they going to throw it to? And it turned out that was Zach Ertz, who I think he had over 15 fantasy points in week 1. He had 20 fantasy points last week. He's been the guy.
Yeah.
But I think that this is the week that Terry McLaurin finally comes back around. So the Raiders, I think I alluded to this earlier when we were talking about Jaden Daniels' injury, but the Raiders gave up 7th most passing yards through the first 2 weeks to wide receivers, 8th most in touchdown passes to opposing teams. But the flip side to this, that secondary has been really bad, but they've been very good as a rush defense. They've only given up 128 rushing yards on the season. That's the 4th lowest. To put that into perspective, they've given up less yards in 2 games than the Steelers have on average over their first 2 games. Like, they're doing really well on the ground. Only the Browns, Packers, and Pats have been better as a rush defense. So they're transitioning in that backfield. Obviously, Eckler got hurt. We're expecting Bill to, get his first start as the guy. I think that Chris Rodriguez might, work in a little bit. We might have Jeremy McNichols. We're not sure which, but we're expecting Bill. But they're in like a little bit of a transition period. So I think that they're going to have like a slow start to this transition, trying to figure out what their run game is going to look like without Eckler, without Brian Robinson. And I think that, Terry's going to get – he's getting a solid amount of targets. So week 1, he had 4. In week 9, he had 9. I think that in week 1, he only played 79% of the snaps, but they upped him up to 90% in week 2. So, like, he's slowly getting that progression that you can see that he's getting back on the field. I feel like it's a reasonable question about what am I going to think if Jaden Daniels doesn't play and we have Marcus Mariota. It doesn't change anything for me. I mean, Marcus Mariota was bad over the last few years with other teams. He stepped in for Jaden Daniels 1 game last year when Jaden Daniels got hurt with that rib injury in the first quarter. And he stepped in, and he was a large part of why they blew the Panthers out. He was 18 of 23 in 3 quarters for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. They won 40-7. I think that Marcus Mariota is capable with this team, these weapons, versus that defense to still help Terry McLaurin pay off this week. And I think that he's going to be overlooked. When I first did this, it didn't say what the consensus ranks were for him. So I kind of want to look that up quick where people are looking at him in terms of this week. But I'm sure that he's probably not a top 20 play given the fact that Jaden Daniels is banged up. And do you see it here?
Just give me 1 second.
This is always tough having a show on Wednesday because they don't like to 28. So I think that he has top 15 potential this week given the matchup. Debo's had a good couple of games. I just think that it's finally time for Terry McLaurin to break out for the first time in 2025.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, I was going to ask you and you beat me to it if that changed anything. I do think that Mariota's skill set and the way that they kind of run that offense align pretty well. So it's like a really good fit as far as like backup QBs go. We'll see what happens with Jaden Daniels. I don't think that they're going to play him just because I think that they want to play it safe because they have Super Bowl aspirations, but we'll see. Hard to keep those guys
off. If they do play Jaden, I expect him to not run as much. So I think that when he's dropping back, he's not going to scramble around. He's going to be more likely to throw at the Terry. So I feel really good about it. If he gets those 9 targets, hopefully he ups it to maybe like 12 this week. Play 95% of the snaps. I mean, 90% is still really good, but I just feel like it's time for him to finally, after missing most of training camp for the contract dispute, that it's
and I feel like those guys that get into those disputes, it takes them a little bit to kind of get the wheels back, even though they were like hold-ins. It's just not
exactly.
Cool. I like it. All right, so my guy for this week, sorry in advance, but I really like the opportunity for Kyle Pitts this week. So Carolina primarily plays in cover 3, and the most fantasy points per route run player for the Falcons is the Kyle Pitts. He's getting a first read nearly 20% of the time, which is top 10 for tight ends. It's actually at 10, and he leads the team in catchable targets at 84.6%. So he is the Penix safety valve. The Panthers are giving up 63.3 more points than average to tight ends and are 3rd in fantasy points allowed per game so far in the season to tight ends, which is 3rd in the league. So I think that they're going to throw all over the Panthers. They are going to primarily lead on London, but London actually is the worst for any other coverage for him against cover 3. So I think that Pitts is going to get quite a few targets. I think he's going to do well. He's a top 6 tight end for me. He's consensus 11, but I think he smashes that this week.
Yeah, I like it. Are you feeling any differently about Kyle Pitts' top 5 tight end prediction preseason now that we're seeing a little bit of it? I think he needs to score off more, obviously. Like, he hasn't got in the end zone, but
I mean,
the targets are there.
The problem is going to be, I feel like there's 4 guys that are more or less locked in for me at this point. McBride, Bowers, Kraft, Warren. So can he get that 5th spot? Yeah. It's possible. Kelsey hasn't really done much, even despite the lack of target competition. Sam Laporta, I think, probably is the natural pick to slide into that 5th spot. Jawan Johnson has surprised everyone, being as big of a target hog as he's been in New Orleans. So he's kind of like that dark horse there. Zach Ertz, if he keeps scoring at the rate that he does, he could be in the mix. But the other one, too, Jake Ferguson, he's getting a lot of looks in Dallas. He's second, I believe, in targets for tight end, second in receptions. So he could sneak in there, but I don't know if they sustain that volume for the year. But I do think Pitts, he's on that short list for sure. It's just going to see if he can be consistent, or if it was more of just like a one and done week 1. But I think that he's going to flirt with it for sure. But those first 4 ironclad. So when we're looking at those like different trades or whatever, it's like, so like Steve had that lineup of like JSN, Tet, Egbuka, JMO, and then London. I would honestly take one of those guys, depending on who you have, and go get a big tight end.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that when we went through that, but he wasn't really looking at that as something he wanted to do. So
we'll see. All right, so we are just over the hour mark, so I think it's important to let people know where to find us for content and kind of wrap this thing up so we can get on with our day. But let's transition into that now. So you can find us on our personal socials, so at JOEFRK, at Drew Hannes for easy sledding. The show's channel or page is AT412FF Show on X. The team around the 412 on YouTube and on Twitch. So if you have start-sit questions, trade questions, anything you got throughout the week, please feel free to let us know. If you like the content and you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, do all of that stuff that nobody actually wants to hear about, that everybody talks about on the show. So, Drew, that's going to wrap things up for us this week. Any closing thoughts for us before we go?
Nothing more than just answering Tyler's question there, that I would probably keep Achane, because that's the only thing in Miami's offense that's worth playing.
Yeah, I would keep him as well. I would probably hold /buy if he has a tough week or something happens. Like, he's ironclad. He's going to get the targets. He's going to get the work. Ollie Gordon, kind of a preseason darling, kind of disappeared quite a bit. He had the Jalen Wright injury. They don't really have a lot of other options there. So I like him a lot. So I would definitely go for it. Even if it is
too, so we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah, and even in half PPR, I think he does enough to be relevant. So I would go with it.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you got for us?
No, man. I'm just looking forward to another week of watching football, not sleeping.
Yeah,
never sleep during football season.
You gotta work on that, man. It's never that serious. It's never that deep.
I just can't miss a snap. That's the thing. Like that 10 o'clock game on
yeah, that was pretty brutal. I crawled into bed at like 1, and I was like, "This is not fun."
I gotta move to the West Coast.
No, yeah, Central Time was tight because it was never that bad, even on like the night games. But we'll see how it shakes. So, all right, folks, that is going to do it for us this week at the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. We thank you so much for tuning in with us. So, with myself, Joe, that's Drew. We'll find you in the chat. We'll find you on all of the socials that you need, and we'll tear it up for next week. Good luck to you, and we'll be here on Wednesday, 8:30 for our week